top reasons, that is, that folks have trouble getting into ketosis. Um, those include number one, not doing the diet correctly. If you do not get into ketosis by eating ketogenically, you will not be in ketosis. That just kind of goes without saying, but a lot of advice out there is, I think, getting people a little bit confused. The other thing is the diet isn't just one exact template. You have to find the diet that works for you to actually get into ketosis. And so I talked about tracking using chronometer, for instance, and I went through the basics of that if you watched last week's video. Today I want to cover, how do we know we're in ketosis? Well, there are physiologic effects and effects that you'll notice. There's a lot of people are doing this for weight loss. I guess the scale is their only measuring device, and let me talk about why that's not the best way to monitor how you're doing. Number one is that when you begin to successfully do a ketogenic diet, initially you are going to actually preserve muscle and even build muscle while you're beginning the process of burning fat. And so any rapid weight loss is usually going to be water and the loss of muscle, including glycogen. And I won't go into all that, but basically glycogen is the stored sugar that's in your liver and in your muscles. And once you begin to use some of that up, you are going to obviously lose weight in the form of water. As time goes on, though, you can get yourself burning fat too, but that just takes a little bit longer. So we're talking about more like weeks, over the course of a few weeks to a few months, etc. You're starting to see fat loss, of course. The effects can happen quicker or slower for some people. So on the testing front, how do we know we're in ketosis? Well, there are the obvious signs. So I just mentioned, by the way, so instead of taking your weight, what I recommend is that you actually take measurements. So whether you're trying to build muscle, whether you're trying to lose fat, or both, you should measure your arm circumference, the top of your arms, thighs, hips, buttocks, and make note of that. And that's one of the best measures. And yeah, you can track on a scale, but just remember that when you see that you just lost 5 pounds in 1 week, that doesn't necessarily mean that's all fat. So I'm not trying to discourage anyone. Obviously, the scale, we're very much in tune with weight, and the scale is our go-to. We're happy when the scale shows we lost weight, and we're unhappy when it shows it doesn't. So, but you need to understand that you may actually be losing a lot more fat than the scale indicates because of the maintaining of muscle. So we want to be stronger, we want to be fitter, and we want to carry less weight when it becomes detrimental to our health. So let's run down testing. I've discussed this before, and many people know this, but with ketone testing, there are probably 3 primary methods of doing that. We have urine, we have blood testers, and then also we have breath testers. When you first begin to go into ketosis and go low carb with the high fat diet, initially you're going to see an increase in ketones spilling into the urine, and the urine test strips are helpful for that. I won't demonstrate dipping this today, having been on a ketogenic diet for 2.5, 3 years. What happens though is after a few weeks, you stop spilling ketones into your urine, and so the test strips aren't really that useful. Many people have posted and commented about how, after a couple of weeks, and they noticed when they started, for instance, having taking exogenous ketones or using MCT and high fats, and drinking coffee, for instance, there's a decrease in ketones in the urine, and that's a good sign because you shouldn't keep pushing a lot of ketones out in the urine. Instead, though, what you need to do long term is to use either blood or breath testers. Like I said, I won't demonstrate the breath testers, but I'm going to go ahead and check my ketones today. It's a very simple glucometer device that also measures ketones. And you can pick these up inexpensively, maybe 25, $30 at the most, and the test strips have also gotten less expensive. So I always check my ketones and glucose at the same time. And they have test strips like this. Let's see if we can get this camera around a little bit better. So we've got ketone strip, and again, this is the Abbott Labs Precision Extra, and the 2 test strips. I'm gonna alcohol my finger. And I'll mention also, just make note here what I've eaten, because when you start to keep track of your ketones, you want to know what you have eaten so far that day. So you might be checking this first thing in the morning when you're fasting. You might be doing it at some other time during the day. So alcohol here. These lancets are the devices that actually click in and make a small prick in your skin. You can these are a low depth, so it's just enough without hurting very much and not going a bit deeper than you need to. If you are someone who has very thick skin because you work a lot with your hands, for instance, carpenters or laborers, you're going to need to maybe get a standard adult one. These kits come with reusable devices that have you change the portion inside. I won't demonstrate this today, but we're going to use a disposable form, and I can put the links to this particular one. Before I stick myself, I always open these up and make sure that my battery is working in my device. Actually, you can just click on this button and bring it up there. And it's going to give the memory readings if you cycle through. Otherwise, it's sitting here waiting for a test strip. So I'm going to put the ketone tester in first. And that just loads in like that. The black lines that are on the end there is the sensor part that goes into the device. That's the other little tiny white half moon shaped section there is what you're going to touch your blood spot to. Alright, so it's telling me it's ready to take my sample there. And I usually have a cotton swab available. Just a little tip, you can help encourage this out. Alright, so I just stuck myself by doing a quick wipe. So it'll start to want to clot right away. Also, I tend to hold my finger down a little bit. So you don't need a lot of blood here. And then you just simply hold that and the thing beeps when it gets enough. The ketones takes about 10 seconds to read. Go ahead and I'll hold this up. I have no idea what this is going to be, and I'll tell you in a second what I ate. 0.4. That's interesting. That makes sense, I guess, with what I'll talk about in a second. So I go ahead and take this out. It does remember that, so 0.4, and I'll talk about what levels we are after if you're not aware of that. So go ahead and, so blue strip, this is the glucose meter test strip. This one only takes 5 seconds for the result, and at 80, so that explains it. When I have tested my ketones, they have varied anywhere between probably 0.4 up to 4. And so I am not having fasted. It's 12:30 right now, and I ate, let's start off, let's see, thinking, the shake. Yeah, so this morning, ran out the door. I didn't eat for a little while, and I did a shaker of, let's see, we had some pea protein powder. You can actually grab that off the shelf. I had some, which is a mixed powder with greens and other things in it. And what else was in there? I had a little fiber and what was the other? Oh, the collagen. So And then I ate a Designs for Health bar, and I was meanwhile drinking my coffee which was bulletproof coffee. So I'm gonna grab the phone and let's take a little stroll here. See if I can. Let me rotate the camera. Don't need to see my face. So I ate one of these essential bars, and that was about an hour and a half ago. So definitely would have influenced this. Now this is not the strictly ketogenic diet bar. Okay, so we have to do a little math, and it's about 19. I'm gonna guess about 10 grams of carbohydrates. There's sugar, alcohols in here, and fiber. So they're a great bar. It's just not. It's gonna give me just a little more carbs than I typically do in the morning. These are kind of more of a pre-workout bar. We've got low carb versions, and I'll test another time. I'll be testing in about an hour after eating some of these. That's going to be on the follow-up video. And then that shake. So this had this one, and I know this is not strictly. I'm looking at it here. 18 grams of protein. Where is the carb? There it is. So 8. So it's not so bad. 8 grams with 7 grams of fiber. That's actually, oh no, I'm sorry, 1 gram. So sugar's 4. Yeah. So definitely some little bit of carbs and sugar in there. And again, that was only about an hour ago. The bar has some carbohydrates in it. So those are primarily the two reasons why um, we had some trouble. So kind of switch this back around. And I'm not going to say trouble. It's just why my ketones are at 0.4. So what is our goal for ketosis? We want our ketones on our blood strips to be at around 0.7 and higher, up to usually about 4. Most people aren't going to go above that. More is not necessarily better. I'd say if you're above 0.7, you're good to go. And that's typically where I'm at when I have eaten low carb. So obviously, let's say in about another hour or two, and I may follow up and check it again, I bet that my ketones will start to come up. The blood sugar. So there's an inverse correlation there. Usually your blood sugar is going to be a little bit higher and your ketones will be a little bit lower. It makes sense because the higher your blood sugar, it suppresses ketosis. And so ketones higher, your glucose is going to come down. So typically I'll see my glucose around 65, 68 to 75. And my ketones are at like 0.8, 1.5, or 2. And that means I'm in a good ketogenic state. So again, we're not looking for an exact number all the time, always the same. Depending on how close to a meal and what you ate, it will pick that up. So what should be a starting point if you are starting a ketogenic diet? Again, to kind of recap, 1 to 2 weeks, the cheap, easy way. Check your urine, collect it, dip one of these strips in there, and look for it. It's going to turn pink to purple, and it gives you an indicator as to moderate to low. So you should see some detectable levels, and then go to the ketone blood tester or a breath tester. And again, I would check probably in the morning, maybe with if you're doing a bulletproof coffee, if you're taking MCT or eating something highly ketogenic, then go ahead and do a test perhaps before and see how you're coming out of your fast at night. And then try about an hour to 2 hours after any meal that you think is in line with the ketogenic diet. And those numbers should line up. If none of your readings are getting above 0.5 in terms of ketones, then you're really not getting there. And we need to work on the diet aspect of that and see what's going on. Next video, I will be covering the hormone side of things, because if you are continuing to struggle, even though you're getting it right, modifying your diet using tracking, testing, and then you should look at hormone levels. Now, I do recommend to check your hormone levels even before you get started or at any point in the diet. But it's the next level of reasons why people don't go into ketosis. Number one is probably the insulin resistance issue, and that's often a problem for those who need to lose weight. So it's kind of pre-diabetes, where your bodies don't respond to insulin as properly as they should, and so your blood sugars just tend to hover up higher. There's ways to address that and get that taken care of. Then also we've got issues with hypothyroidism, adrenal insufficiency, and low sex hormones. And so next time I will talk about those items. So let's see. I'll go ahead and call that it for now. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments below. And feel free to check out the links to my prior videos and subscribe if you'd like to know when new videos become available. So I should be back next Thursday at 12:15, and I look forward to chatting with you again. So thanks for watching.